This is a really short little poem. The mess. I feel empty. The world was a mess when I was born. Men shooting men, men shooting women, and as I grew, I was given a toy gun, and all my young friends received toy guns, and then the children shot the children, and I also got my mom right in the eye. I poked her and shouted, "Gotcha!" But the other children still wanted me to play. "We need an Indian," they said. Okay, I'll read. Here's one about hot weather in July. Waite's Newsstand, July. The hot, still air fills the narrow interior of Waite's Newsstand. It is near midnight. Forest fires rampant in the region, and the lake is so stiff and warm that fragile, pin-legged insects traverse its width, skate from southern to northern shore, deep in dense July, and the hot air fills the narrow interior of one small matchbox, newsstand, coffee counter, the waitress with the temper skitters from sink to pot, the coffee thick as night and equally as hot. Okay, I'm going to read this one. I just wrote this one, and it's kind of odd. It's like it was a 4-poem day in Vancouver, and so I thought, because I had these 4 poems occur, that they must have some thread. So I left it up to the conglomeration of the 4 poems to provide the thread. So who knows if it worked or not? But this is the result of a 4-poem day. It's called Bait. Today, I discovered the horrible, dark secret of escalators and other things. Anomalies like popcorn strung on a string along the electric transit route. A puzzling day made of many bits of poems, crumbs of light, discarded castaways of a retired feast of flickering Chinese lanterns. Just last year, I bragged to my friend of how I had ridden the escalator to the end without lifting my feet. I usually do a little leap, necessitated by a fiction preserved from my childhood and my ill-founded fears of being sucked into the escalator, or at the very least left terribly maimed by the tight metal lips and teeth at the escalator's long mouth. I planted my feet, closed my eyes, and surfed across it without incident. Then this morning, I discovered station workers had removed all the steps from the escalator, which had hosted my daring feat, and the absence of stairs exposed a deep black hole, a shaft beneath the escalator, and at the end of it, far below the escalator's mouth, a large pile of torn yellow newspaper, discarded transit tickets, and the very obvious shredded remnants, a sad semi-digested heap of several suits of children's colorful clothing. It was too early for my train, so I sat outside the Chinese fast food stand, which hadn't opened yet, but exuded the fragrance of freshly fried food and spice wafted through the slightly open door. When from across the station, a large man of 65 sloughed towards me and announced, "Sir, sometimes they are nice to me, sir. They're in the Chinese food stand, and they give me extra lemon chicken. But when this happens, sir, I can't help but weeping for joy, sir. So they stopped giving me extra chicken, sir." As he said this, he began to weep, huge splashing blue tears like a Yukon rainstorm with drops as big as buckets. His sobbing astonished me. Finally, he spoke through his precipitations. "Sir, as you can see, I'm very sensitive, and so I've never been able to marry. But I went to a website called Plenty of Fish, and 100 Caucasian women and 50 Asian women answered my ad, even though I'm old, sir. Older than you, sir, and very sensitive, sir. So when I arranged to meet my catch of the day, sir, I wept within seconds of sitting down at the restaurant table, and my date inevitably excused herself and disappeared, and I kept weeping, sir. Then my train arrived. So I circumnavigated the predatory escalator and left the man who wept waiting for chicken, and later I saw a large golden dragon on top of a Buddhist temple near Pender Street, and there were 2 fat crows resting on the dragon's tail, watching the approach of new rain from the west. I wondered what it all meant, and why it was contained in just one day. Then, to the Army and Navy store, where I bought a small casting crab trap and permitted myself to dream of standing on the long wooden pier in White Rock, large raindrops falling, a wind with a voice, a month with an R in it, whiskey in the bitter thermos coffee, casting one small net into the vast undulation of Semiahmoo Bay. My trap, a wallflower at some slow dance of orange dungeness through a theater of saline element, green ticker tape, scuttling sideways with the clear focus of appetite, drawn to the attractive presentation at the core of the net, the raw heart of delectable bait.